everyone, I have a special guest on my channel today. This is Karen Kavett, and you probably already know who she is.
Hi everyone!
We have just done an episode of Critique O'Clock over on Karen's channel. Do you want to explain to people what it's about?
Yeah, that's my show where I have people send in their design work from school or just personal projects, and then I give them a critique on it. And so for the first time, I had a guest come in and do a critique with me, and we just talked about a few different projects and how they could be improved.
Over on my channel right now, we're going to give you some advice for critiquing. So talking about the things that we look out for when we're critiquing someone else's work, so that maybe you can apply it to your own work and critique it yourself, I suppose. When you open up one of these projects in the email, what's the first thing you look out for to critique?
Well, when I'm choosing the projects for the show, I look for something to talk about. Like, I look for enough happening that I have just like an immediate thought of how it could be improved or something that I really like about it. But when I'm just looking at, designs on the street, I think it's mostly a first impression thing.
Yeah, first impressions really do count, don't they, when it comes to critiquing?
Yeah.
Also, the context, I think, is really important. So that's why I think you ask people to send in a bit of background, right, about the project. So it's really important when you're critiquing a piece of work to understand the reasons behind it and the context behind it, because that's how you're going to understand what the point is meant to be. And you can combine that, I suppose, with your first impression to see if they align.
Yeah, so, I asked them to send in like a list of information. It's like, how old are you? Are you in school? Who was this made for? Is it a real thing? Is it a fake thing? Like just like a school project? And yeah, what is it meant to do? What's the purpose of the design?
Yeah, because that in the end is the point. Like, you can make something that looks beautiful, and if the point is just to have something that looks beautiful, then that's all well
great.
And good. But sometimes, most of the time, there's a bigger problem to be solved with a design, right? So the context,
if it's in a lot of the ones they do are like posters for events,
Yeah.
where the point is to get someone to come to this event, and so there's a clear purpose there that I can talk about whether they've achieved it or not.
Yeah, exactly. I think a lot of the time, especially when it's university projects, I found this anyway, it's hard to keep in mind that it's not to make something look cool, it's to sell tickets, when you're talking about an event poster. That is the point, is to get people to come along and to pay their money to come to this event so that it can be a success. And sometimes looking cool and selling tickets is not the same thing. Like, you have to make sure that the right information stands out. And yeah, that's kind of hard to remember, right? When you're in university and you're just trying to make a project that looks good in your portfolio. So what about when you're critiquing the typography? What are a few things to watch out for that you'll like immediately like scan through? I don't know, is there like a checklist in your head that you think of?
Not really. I guess a big one is, can you read it? Like, if there's supposed to be a big title and I don't know what it says, that's a big red flag.
Yes, definitely.
Or if it's like way too small or way too big, like, is there enough breathing room? Are the proportions about right for each level of information? Hierarchy is a word that gets thrown around a lot, but it actually is important. Like, what is the most important information, and does it look like it's the most important when you're looking at the design?
So what about colors and imagery used?
Again, is it too busy? Is it too sparse? We just talked about one where it was meant for kids, and so I thought there could, and it was a very flat design, so we thought there could have been a little more going on, even though the color scheme was a primary color scheme. There just wasn't much else there to show that it was meant for kids. And if the purpose is to get someone's attention, like a magazine or a book cover, if you print it out and put it across the room, does it get your attention, or do you just look right past it?
That's a really good trick. Do you ever do that with your designs, print them out and look at them from across the room? I don't do much print stuff these days.
I haven't done a lot of print stuff recently.
I definitely did that in university.
What I used to do was the squint test, where you kind of like, well, I wear glasses, so I could just take off my glasses, but if you don't, then you just kind of squint at it until it all blurs together, and then you see what really pops out at you, what colors, what text, like where all of the elements are when you're not looking at the details, and that can help you to arrange it in a good way.
That's a really good way to check for the balance, right, of things, because if you squint and you're finding your eye, like there's immediately a dark section down here, when really the most important information is like hiding out in a thin font up there, then that needs to be fixed. What are some advice for critiquing your own work? Because I think it's easier to critique others than it is to critique your own. Right. Do you agree?
One of my biggest things is giving yourself a good night's sleep before you look at it again, like coming to it with fresh eyes. After you've been looking at it for like 6 hours on a design spree, you're not going to see it the same way as somebody seeing it for the first time will, because you've been looking at it for too long.
I've ruined so many pieces of my own work from like panicking about them, and I've not been liking it after working on it for a solid 5 hours, and I make all these crazy changes. and then I end up going back to the file that I saved like 5 versions ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always I'll do it and I think it looks perfect, but before I send it out, I'll always try to do it the day before the deadline, at least, give myself at least a day buffer time so that I can look at it with fresh eyes. And usually there's a few things where I'm oh, that needs to be adjusted. I can't believe I didn't see that.
Yeah. Maybe another good thing to do as well could be to show someone who's not a designer.
I was just gonna say that.
Yeah.
To sit with somebody who either isn't a designer or just a new pair of eyes.
Yeah, and see what they say about it, because even if they say nothing, that's kind of telling, right?
Yeah, don't explain the project to them, just ask them what they see, how they would describe it.
Yeah, I would put the person in the context of where your target audience might be. So if it's a poster that's meant to advertise an event or something, it might be on the street. So say, pretend you're walking down the street and you see this.
Or even print it out and go outside and hang it up on,
there you go.
on the wall.
If you really want to commit.
Yeah. So beyond critiquing your own work, another big part is critiques in school.
Yeah.
I think we both went to art school.
Yep.
And so a big part of graphic design classes is everybody hanging up their work, and you go around the class and you critique each one. So do you have any tips on critiquing other people's work in that context?
The main thing is to say something. I don't know about your class, but in mine, in the early years of university, everyone is so timid. And
at first,
Yeah, and doesn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But the thing to remember is you're critiquing their work and not them, right?
So make sure you don't make it personal.
Oh yeah, definitely. Don't make it personal and just talk about the work.
And try to keep it brief. I sat through so many critiques where one person would talk about everything and just go on and on and on, and everybody wanted to kill them.
Think of the main things, because other people are probably going to pick up on the other little things that you might see, and if they don't, you can join in later on, but leave something for someone
And if you
else.
see something that no one else is saying, feel free to bring it up.
Yeah, definitely. Don't be shy, and don't feel like just because no one else has said it yet, that means your critique might be wrong.
Yeah,
right?
There's no such thing as a wrong critique.
Yeah, because it's the point of a critique is to get your opinion on the piece and understand the feelings that you get when you see it. So whatever you say is going to be valuable to the person who designed it.
Yeah, and if you have a lot of really bad things to say, maybe start it off by saying something nice. Actually, that's a critique that I got on Critique O'Clock. Somebody was like, you have a lot of stuff to say, but maybe you could say something that you like too. So always try to think of 1 or 2 things that you do like about the piece, as well as things that you might change.
And also, understanding the things that are good is really important too, because you don't want them to end up changing the things that are working really well in an attempt to fix the things that aren't working so well. Well, thank you for coming along and sharing some advice, Karen.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's fun.
Yeah, it's awesome to see what goes on. I suppose I've watched the Critique O'Clock episodes, so now I can know what you're thinking when you're watching it. Make sure you head on over and check out that Critique O'Clock video that we did on Karen's channel, and make sure you subscribe to her when you're there if you're not already.
And if you're coming here from that video, make sure you subscribe to Charlie's channel, because her videos are really good.
Thank you, Karen. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next week.
Bye!